Good evening. Thank you for coming. Welcome to another community-wide discussion on breaking the silence, a focus on teen suicide prevention. It's been 4 months since I spoke in a church in front of a large audience like this. 4 months ago, I was still lost, still trying to find answers why my daughter decided she just couldn't go on one more day. I agreed to share Cassidy's story, but at that time, I was so scared where that might take me, what might open up, and what it might do to my family. Standing here today, I can tell you it was the best decision I ever made, not only for me, but for this community. Cassidy's story opened up the conversation for so many other stories. I received so many messages from people thanking me for breaking the silence about suicide. I had no idea how many people were suffering in silence right here in our own community, or just keeping silent about someone that they lost to suicide simply because it wasn't socially acceptable to talk about such a dark topic. Well, we're making it acceptable. Let's get raw and real with each other so we can actually learn from each other. Let's start the conversations with our children about their feelings, frustrations, pressures, fears, and yes, even thoughts of suicide. Let's not think that if we don't talk about it, that it won't affect our family. Wrong. Suicide does not discriminate, and it affects more teens today than ever before. We need to dig deeper with our conversations to make sure that we aren't missing that one little sign that could actually save a life. This is an uncomfortable topic, but it's time to get uncomfortable and deal with it. Immediately after my talk in May, Judd and I decided that it was time to do something. So I invited Cassidy's closest friends to brainstorm with me and help me figure out the gap that exists between kids and the adult world so that a lifeline of communication is in place to have the important conversations that might keep a teen from having suicidal thoughts. We ultimately formed a school-approved club led by the students and focused on teen suicide awareness and prevention. The name of the club is Cavs Join for Hope. The Cavs for the College Park Cavaliers, or the CJH Club, which are also Cassidy's initials. The purpose of this club is to break the silence about mental health and teen suicide by continuing the conversations that has finally been started and focus on preventative measures like self-value, anti-bullying, social media dangers, and simply spreading the powerful message that kindness matters. Our number one goal is to save lives. The Cavs Join for Hope Club had a table at College Park orientation, and we had 136 new members sign up. That's just amazing. That doesn't happen with just any club. This just proves that the kids are looking to find hope out of all of this darkness. These kids have truly turned tragedy into triumph. Let me introduce the Cavs Join for Hope with this video.
We all lost someone very close to us, and we realized that it was kind of becoming something that was happening very often, and we didn't want that to happen to anyone else.
And we realized that this is a serious problem in the area that we live in, and we need for it to be spoken about. We need this problem to stop. So we're starting this club to get awareness out.
I think ultimately we wanted to have a safe place for everyone to come, anyone that feels like they're alone or they're lost or they don't know what they're doing, because most likely there's 10 other people that feel the same way that you don't even know.
I feel like people don't know how much they're worth to other people and how much their life really matters to other people, and that they're not alone, and that people actually want to be there for them, and that they're not a burden to people.
A lot of people just weren't really talking about it, and they were kind of shoving it under the rug. And I think we kind of wanted to just put a stop to that and make people talk about it and make it easier to talk about.
I think everyone should know how important they are and how much they matter to everyone.
This issue is important because it's affected all of us personally, and it's becoming a growing problem in the community.
Especially after this past year of how many we've lost. And it's just terrible to think about it, but we don't want it to happen to anyone else. And people feel the same way we did.
Because I had a personal experience with suicide, it's just important to me that everyone feels loved and everyone feels included and no one feels left out, and that everyone knows that they're important.
When someone takes their life, it doesn't just contain in their little circle. It ripples out across the entire community, and the whole community feels it, no matter who you are, what relation you had with the person.
This club is very important to me because it helps people express their feelings and thoughts towards others and how they're acting. You really never know until a person's okay until they speak to you. So if you can talk to them into their heart, you can know them a lot better and see how they're actually doing in the inside.
Our goal is to save lives and to make people feel safe when talking about their feelings and not feel like they're going to be judged for them, because there's people there who want to listen and who want to help and who want to be there for them.
Our goal is to end teen suicide, and we want to accomplish this goal with the whole community. We don't want it to just be a group of kids at a high school. We want it to reach out to everyone in our community and everyone in other communities that feel the love that they feel for their friends and family.
This club has helped me realize that actually a ton of people want the same thing I do, and they make me realize that everyone can come together if they try.
This club has helped me because I've seen the school really get close and become a family, something that I wasn't before, and it's just really cool being a part of a school that's so tight. It's like they're all Cantus, but we're all Cavaliers.
This club helped me by making me a better person. It made me think more about how I treat other people and how other people feel.
It's helped me become a better person, and just shows how influential that we can all can be. So I think it's really important that we're all together.
This club has helped me realize that I have tons of friends that support me, and I also have people outside my friend group that can support me and that will, and that I'm not alone in these hard times.
These are just some of our calves joined for hope. This is what hope looks like.
Wow, what an amazing video. Thank you for sharing that with us. First, thank you all for gathering here. My name is David Argueta. I serve our community as the president for CHI St. Luke's Health here in the North Houston region. I want to take time to especially thank Kim, you, and for the invitation, for allowing us to be a part of this journey with you. We're all here to discuss a very important topic, teen suicide prevention. And I wanted to open our time together with just a quick prayer and reflection. Before I do that, though, something that one of the young men in the video said I feel is extremely important, that this isn't just students, this is a community coming together to address something that affects all of us. Whether or not you have children at College Park or any school, I have 2 young daughters, and it hits home regardless of where you are. So I appreciate you helping lead in that discussion. So if you'll just bow with me. Dear Lord, grant us the peace to be with one another tonight as we pause from our busy lives to talk about the issues affecting our community. Be with our speakers as they speak your words, and be with our teens tonight as they hear your message. Please allow vulnerability. Please help us to be brave, to lead in the conversation, to be bold. And thank you, dear God, for being here with us and guiding us as we grow together as a community. In your name we pray. Amen. So thank you all again. It is an honor to be here, and I really do appreciate being part of the conversation tonight. And I'll be turning it over to our next speaker. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Denise Cipolla, and I'm the coordinator for guidance and counseling in Conroe Independent School District. This is my 20th year in CISD, and it's my true honor and privilege to work with 127 counselors in our district, serving our 60,000 students in 60 campuses. All means all in CISD, and we strive to guarantee that every child knows that they have faculty and staff with whom they interact that truly are invested in each individual child. But greater than this, all means all, is a dedicated belief that faculty and staff district-wide are invested in all of each child, of each student, the whole child, striving to help teach, grow, and develop not only the academic, educational goals of each student, but the social, emotional well-being of each student too. Building resiliency in our students is a major focus of their education. We strive to teach coping skills and techniques which will serve them throughout their lives, as they learn by trial and error, use failures as fuel for success, and learn to bounce back, to overcome, to press on, and to thrive. We want to help our students develop grit, to transform their pain into productivity, and reframe the way that we view our limitations. We strive to develop the relationships that create a safe and nurturing environment to help develop these skills. You know, one of a human's basic survival needs is the need for belonging. Connectedness and relationships are essential in development as well as in learning. When you're connected and feel needed, you're more motivated to be resilient for others. Many people reflect on past thoughts of self-harm, depression, recovery from addictions, upon events of times of failure, and time again, they say that knowing someone cared about them and someone was there to support them is the sole reason for their survival. Soldiers at war state that keeping a photo in their helmet of a loved one back home, or their dependence on and commitment of their fellows in the unit are what kept them alive during combat. There may be those of you in the audience tonight who are pushing through challenges at this very moment, hanging on because of someone who you know would be devastated if you were no longer here. You do matter. You do make a difference in the lives of those around you. Let us help you focus on what can be done and what can change. See what you're doing that's right and not dwell on the negative, but see the possibilities. Try not to fear failure, but expect that it's inevitable and part of growing up at any age. Learn to forgive yourself and to move forward. Remember that 8 steps forward and 6 steps back is still 2 steps forward. Be resilient and reach out for support for those people who can help you on those steps. A central theme in Conroe Independent School District this year is a challenge proclaimed by Dr. Stockton to all the teachers and staff in this very building at our convocation of schools this past August. Make this the year of kindness. Kindness towards each other. Kindness taught through actions and deeds in everyday interactions. Throughout our schools, there are kindness campaigns presented in campus themes, classroom guidance lessons, daily classroom activities, special presentations, speakers, advisory lessons. There's buddy benches on playgrounds, and rewards for random and even not so random acts of kindness, demonstrated by teachers and by students alike. School clubs are embracing this theme with their activities. Kindness towards one another creates safe environments which are supportive and nurturing. And kindness towards others builds your own self-esteem, prevents miscommunication and arguments, decreases aggression, outbursts, and bullying incidents. Kindness increases self-worth and the importance and appreciation of others. You heard some of the Cavs for Join for Hope state those in the formation of their goals and mission of the club. We want each and every student, teacher, and staff member to know that the support that they show through invested relationships and rapport is essential in developing the whole person and is needed and necessary for all of us. To our students in the audience tonight, please know you're never alone. While you may feel isolated, separated, hopeless, or in solitude, there are many adults with whom you interact who truly care about you and your well-being. If you need support, please reach out to your counselor, a teacher, your coach, the director of your activity, your nurse, a principal, or an assistant principal. Who are your trusted adults in your life? Think about it. Be prepared to know who you would go to in the event you need support. Know that there is someone there to assist you. Parents, we can help you as well. Know that there are resources throughout the district and the community that are just a phone call away, and one of us can help you make that call. We have the referrals and the resources through our community-wide network of caring professionals, and many of those are located in the lobby as you leave today. Building and developing resiliency is something we can do throughout our years in each of our lives. Knowing when and where to ask for support is a key factor in continuing to be a lifelong learner, a survivor, and together, we all, each of us, can make a difference in the world in which we live and creating a bright future ahead. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Denise as well, and it's interesting because when I was just now listening to Denise talk, some of the topics that she said are actually some things that I'm going to bring up as well during the presentation. I am going to be talking to you about social media and suicide. And so I have the PowerPoint, they're going to pull it up. There we go. So we're going to be talking about social media. One of the things we need to know about social media, if you can switch the slide, please. What is social media? My colleague and I, a while back, had a whole conversation about what is social media. She said, it's Facebook. I said, it's more than Facebook. She goes, well, it's Twitter, and it's more than all that. It's also the texting. So she pulled up the big definition of it. Refers to the interaction among people in which they create, share, and or exchange information and ideas in virtual communities and networks. Next slide, please. That's the wheel of social media. It's not one or two things. I found this online. I was like, wow. So much of our life, so much of our youth's life is involved in social media and electronics and technology and what's going on. It's very real. It's got some great aspects to it, but it also has some concerns. Next slide, please. There was a survey done. It was 2008. This was referenced in 2012, and I wish it was a more recent survey, but it still gets the point across. Out of 373 web pages, when they searched, there were 115 that were suicide neutral. They didn't take a stand either way. 109 were anti-suicide. But there were 41 out of 373. 41 actually encouraged suicide. Next slide. In an article published by the American Journal of Public Health, they actually show that there's a correlation between internet use and suicide. And it is a positive correlation, which means both increase. As one goes up, so does the other. That's a concerning statistic. How is that happening? Why is that happening? We hear a whole lot about cyberbullying. Next slide, please. We hear a whole lot about cyberbullying and how sometimes cyberbullying actually contributes, and it can be a factor. But also these other pro sites are factors as well as other things that are not about bullying. It's what our youth, it's what we as adults, it's what we as people are starting to see more and more, and we're becoming desensitized by everything that we're being exposed to. Next slide, please. Online, one of the things you can do is type hashtag. Youth are very familiar with hashtag not so great, hashtag great day. You hashtag everything, hashtags at the front of a phrase. We also have other hashtags, hashtag Annie for anxiety, hashtag Olive for obsessive compulsive disorder. Please do the next slide. My Secret Family is a website, it's a site, and it gives you all the hashtags. So if I'm looking at suicide, I can do hashtag Sue if I'm a girl to find support or to let someone know. I can do hashtag Dallas if I'm male and then I'm looking for someone. This is something us as parents and adults need to be aware of. Youth, I'm asking you to be aware of it for your friends. But one thing I want to say about being aware of it for your friends, it's not your responsibility. You have to, this is bigger than you. It's bigger than most adults. We get help. When something like these topics come up with our friends or with some, we seek help from other people as well. And I'm asking you, the youth in the audience, to please, when you see friends saying these type of things, hashtagging these kind of things, you seek help from another adult, from an adult. And if they're not helping you, ask another and ask another and ask another, and don't stop. Don't stop. Next slide, please. This next section that I'm getting into, I want to say something. It's very sensitive, and it's harsh, and it's ugly, and it's mean. And for anyone who has experienced suicide in their family or suicidal ideation in the family, I want you to just be prepared. It's not going to be nice. What we're about to see is the dark side of social media, the dark side of the internet. Because the internet has so many wonderful, wonderful things, and I think it's absolutely wonderful our students and youth have the access to all things all over the world. However, we need to be aware of this. Next slide, please. This young lady, she wrote on her Facebook, "Yes, I know I bullied Rebecca and she killed herself, but IDGAF." This young lady went on to harass Rebecca after she was gone. The sheriff was mad. He went and arrested her. He had to let her go. She admitted to all the harassing and bullying that she had done, and he had to let her go. What this was a sign of, and what this was an indicator of, and you need to be very aware of this, youth, well, everybody. The laws are starting to move to say that there's going to be some consequences for what we put on and what we say on. When it's cyberbullying and harassment, we need to be aware. The laws are catching up. We will be liable for what we say on the internet. It's not going to be, a lot of times people say it's a freedom of speech. Not when something like this happens. Next slide, please. This young man lived in Austin. He wrote that on Facebook. I don't know if this is going to affect people or if y'all are even going to care, but I just wanted to say I'm taking my life away, not from my ex, but because I'm tired to be who I am. I have given Mom a lot of pain trouble. I just want to say I'm sorry. The next day he went to his campus and he shot himself in the quad. He posted it. There was no responses. He was reaching out. The next one, please. Attempting suicide online, it talks about it becoming more of a real thing. They're even calling it cyber suicide or death casting because it's starting to get so much publicity and to be something that is done more and more often. The next one, please. This young man, purposely, he overdosed in front of a webcam while 1,500 people signed on to watch him do it. They kept telling him to hurry up. They wanted to see it complete. Luckily, someone contacted the sheriff's department and they got in time to save him. Next, please. This young woman, she went on Facebook and told everyone that she was going to kill herself with the fumes of a fire she set in her place, and she did. And while they were in there, her friends were going back and forth with her on Facebook up until the time she died. The next, please. This young woman, she told people that she was going to commit suicide, but I was like, yeah, we're tired of hearing it. We're done. We've heard it over and over. She says this all the time, and no one reached out to her. Her mother actually went on later and posted, "My daughter passed away today, so please leave her alone now." Because even after she had died, the people on her Facebook continued to harass her about, "We're tired of hearing about how sad you are." The next, please. This young man, he tried to burn himself to death in the mattress. He caught himself on fire and tried to burn himself to death. And the comments in it are talking about how they can't see him being burnt because there's too much smoke in the room. He needed to open a window so they could see him being burnt. And those are the kind of comments that came on from 200 viewers wanting to watch his death. The next, please. Those are just a few. It's sad. On so many levels, it's sad. What I'm going to ask of you tonight, I'm going to ask the adults as well as the youth. I'm going to ask for a little bit of social media and responsibility. Next slide. Youth do not know how to handle crisis situations, what to say or not to say, and why they should or should not say this or that. And youth, this stuff is new to me. I wasn't raised with this stuff like you are. I'm not sure. I'm learning as well. Us as adults are learning as well. But we all need to take it more serious on what we should and should not say, what is or is not appropriate. How many times have we tweeted, emailed something to someone and we're saying it with a smile, and when they get it, they're offended because they've had a rotten day? We need to be more aware of what we're doing in social media and through a text and through a tweet and through a post. Next slide, please. One thing we need to do in our social responsibility, don't be afraid to ask about suicidal ideation. Do not be afraid to say, are you thinking about killing yourself? Don't be afraid of that word. You're not going to give anyone an idea. If they have the idea, they already have the idea. I can't tell you the number of people who have attempted suicide and did not die. And they said, if someone would have asked. Sometimes we don't have that opportunity to ask. But if you have a question in your heart to ask it. Teach and model empathetic responses. That's all of us. Model it to our friends, model it to our children, model it to our parents. Be aware of what is posted and posted and viewed. Parents, please be aware of what is being posted and viewed by your child. Youth, be aware of what's being, y'all look at each other's, I see phones going like this all the time, sharing. If you see something that's concerning, ask someone, say something. Protect everyone's child, comfortable or not. Tell someone who can help. You don't have to be right or wrong, just in good faith. What that means is if I am afraid of my friend committing suicide or hurting themselves through self-harm, and I tell someone in good faith, that's a true friend. That is someone who really, really cares. And I want you to know, everybody in here is someone's child. I'm someone's child. You're someone's child. We are all someone's child. Next slide, please. These are some guidelines, or potential guidelines of how you can, of things if you are put in a situation where you believe someone is suicidal or going to hurt themselves. And when I say or hurt themselves, if you're afraid because someone is engaged in a self-injurious behavior, keep the channels of communication. Find out contact details, location, and the situation. If you're able, find out where the person is. Just like in the one of the things I showed you about the guy who tried to overdose. Someone found out where he was, and they were able to get someone there. Try to find out the details. Direct the person at risk to local suicide distress center or a telephone hotline. And I don't know if y'all have noticed across the top, I have the suicide hotline numbers. Give them information. Tell them where they can go. Tell them you'll stand with them when they call. You'll make the call for them. If you do not know the person, use platforms provided by the site. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But some of the social media sites are starting to put suicide applications in, and suicide contacts where you can actually reach out and contact someone. We'll see that in just a second. If the person is in imminent danger, contact 911 and give whatever information you can. If you feel this is dire, if this is immediate, call 911. Even if they say no, go with your heart. We can feel it right there when we know we need to do the right thing. Listen to your heart. They might tell you no. Okay, the next one, please. So I told you about empathetic responses. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is empathetic responses and teaching empathy. Next, please. When we're doing an empathetic response on any of our social media, on any of them, we have to think. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? That goes with any of our tweets, any of our posts, any of our communication on social media. Think. Next, please. But when we're talking about empathy, there's actually three kinds. We have cognitive, knowing how the person feels and what they might be thinking. We have emotional empathy, which is when you physically feel what the other person's feeling. Like someone gets scratched and you're like, ow, you feel it. That's emotional empathy. I could feel that. It really hurt when you got scratched there. And compassionate, empathetic concern. That is not only understanding and feeling what the other person feels, but also being moved to help that person. It was real interesting because when I was studying this, I found out about empathy. I was like, empathy, but when does that start? We start teaching that in elementary, right? We need to teach that in elementary. And I was really surprised by the next statistic. Go ahead, please. According to a 6-year study, the prime time to start really instilling empathy in youth, 13 for girls and 15 for boys. That they can really start to understand it, and then you can increase it. You guys starting this young, that's fantastic. You're at the prime time, you're at the right ages to develop empathetic responses and empathy toward other people and what it means and how to do it. Next slide, please. The brain region that supports social cognition, which helps us understand and interact with others successfully, continues to change dramatically in the teens. That means it's going to keep growing, guys. Feed it the right information. I don't know how many of you have heard that there's an old saying, trash in, trash out. Make sure what you're putting in is not trash. And you won't be putting out trash. Next slide, please. So, I'm curious. Here's a tweet. I am done. Can't take any more. Hashtag. So over it. Do you respond? Do you delete? Or do you retweet? I want you to stop and feel, how does that feel reading that? If that was your friend and that just came across. What do you say? What do you do? Would anyone like to try? Would anyone like to offer? One thing I am going to ask everybody is, in a response to a tweet like that, don't make any promises you cannot guarantee 100% that you can keep. A response like, it will all get better. You can't guarantee that. Make sure what your responses are something you have control over. I'm right here. I'm listening as you get help. The next one, please. What if your Instagram, what if your friend just sent you this picture? Do you forward it? Do you ignore it? What do you say? These are hard conversations. These are hard to address. I would like to pose a challenge to the youth who've made a commitment, to the adults that came here tonight that are having made a commitment by coming. You're showing your commitment by being here. Practice this. Because most of the time when this sits in front of us, we freeze and we do nothing. Because we don't know what to do. The only way it's going to get easier to address it is to practice. Take the time, you guys, take the time, sit across from one another and practice. What would you say? How would you address it? It takes practice. Because I guarantee every person in here, if it comes to your face, you're going to freeze. I don't care how old you are. It catches us off guard. Next one, please. Denise brought this up a minute ago about creating a network. All of us, even me, need a network. Who are my people? Who can I go to? At home and at school. Who, and Denise used a word that I absolutely love. I use it all the time. Who is my trusted adult? And parents, please don't be offended if it's not you. Let them pick who their trusted adults are. Youth, don't be obligated to pick your parents or your aunt or your grandmother. What adult do you trust? I really would like for families that are here, for parents to go home and give this activity to their youth. I want you to decide who your trusted adults are at school and at home. Not just say it, have it voiced. It becomes stronger when it comes out of the mouth. If it's in the head, it'll be forgotten. Have them voice it. The trusted adult can change too. But be sure your children have identified who it is they can trust. Next slide, please. The last thing I want to talk about is social media and app tools. Like I said earlier, some of the places, some of the social media sites are actually getting really good about things, about catching on that we need to address these topics, high-risk topics. I want you all to read that last line. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. It takes a strong person to say, I need help. First, next slide, please. Thank you. Facebook. Facebook actually has this there on Facebook now. Report suicide. So you're able to go to Facebook and fill in your concerns, and they have people on staff that are looking for the word suicide, that they will check it out and see what they can do, which is very responsible. Next slide. Tumblr. Tumblr has a thing where if you go in and search things about depression, you get a thing that comes up, and it says, everything okay? It checks in with you. And it tells you, please know that there are people who care about you. And for the youth here tonight, if you were here the other night and tonight and then the other night, back in January, I think it was, February, look at all the people around you, all the adults that do care, that have shown up, that have taken an interest, taken time to let you guys know you're not alone, that we are here. And if I can't help you, I'm going to find someone who can. Next slide, please. This is one of my favorite. I was actually on it last night. It's an app. It's called Virtual Hope Box. And you download it, and it's great for de-stressing. So it has different screens. You have the Distract Me. So in the Distract Me screen, you have a Sudoku puzzle, the photo puzzle, and what the photo puzzle is you upload things that make you feel good. You upload pictures that make you feel good, and when you hit photo puzzle, you can say how many pieces, and it jumbles them around for you to put back together. Word search, it generates a word search puzzle, and they're all inspiring, very positive words for you to search through. And then the solitaire. The Distract Me, what that helps with, the Distract Me, is riding the wave. When you're feeling like you're getting anxious and you need to help calm down, those are very good tools for you to ride that wave, to de-escalate, to come down with. Another one is Inspire Me. Inspire Me is a whole bunch of quotes. If you click on that one, it is a whole bunch of quotes. Relax Me, there they are. You have the controlled breathing. You have muscle relaxation, guided meditation with the beach, guided meditation with the forest, and guided meditation with the country road. I actually shared this app with the counselor who works with hearing impaired, and it's really great because they can read the guided meditations as well. So it has the words where you can read it as well. Then we have the controlled breathing. One of the best ways to de-escalate, and I can't tell you how many colleagues I even tell this to, breathe. Deep breaths. This app will actually help you. It helps condition you and teach you how to breathe deep, and it will help calm you down and bring you down so you can function a little bit easier, especially when you're starting to escalate or get panicked. The last one is coping tools. You put in what works for you. So if I have anxiety, I would type in anxiety. And then it says, pick the problem area. My problem area is anxiety. Identify symptoms and identify emotion and physical symptoms. My emotions is my mind starts racing. I start getting jittery. I start stumbling a little bit. My mind is stumbling. I feel confused. And then it said, add a coping skill. So then I put in there deep breathing. So if I start feeling like that, I can go to my coping cards and see how to help myself. One of my things, I don't know if any of you saw this. Anyone who knows me, I have rocks. I hold rocks. I'm used to speaking in front of a lot of people. I'm not nervous about this. This helps with everything. When I'm talking to people, if I'm talking one-on-one, I use a rock. I put it in my hand, and I rub it. I have one in my car. I have one next to my phone in my office. And before I came up here just now, I reached in my purse and I grabbed a rock. One of the things it does is it helps balance our emotions a little bit so that we can talk more level. So you can have a tool, such as one of my tools would be grab a rock. Next slide, please. Another app that's really good is from SAMHSA, and it's a suicide safe app. What I like about this app is wherever you're at, it will tell you local resources and numbers to call. It's really meant for healthcare providers and people working, but as a parent, I would still encourage this app so that you have treatment locators, places that you can call accessible. There, you see where it says enter the area, address and city and state. Next, please. I don't know if any of you know about the Semicolon Project. I see some of the youth are shaking their head yes. When it first came out, it was brought to me, Denise, the youth are all drawing semicolons on themselves. What is that? And there was a little bit of a panic where I used to be, the school district I was at. And they were like, what's going on? Semicolon Project is actually a very positive thing. It means my life is not over. A semicolon means a sentence is not finished. The Semicolon Project is about my story is not finished. So it's a very positive. So I would like to end on the semicolon. Thank you.
Good evening. Everybody take a deep breath. Just breathe, seriously, it's okay. This is serious stuff, isn't it? This is yes. For 24 years, 9 months, and 7 days, I have been doing what I'm getting ready to get to do with you. I have been traveling across this world of ours, talking with people about their life and about the importance that we have been given to make choices. I strongly appreciate people who have the background that you have just heard for the last few minutes, and I think it's so important that we connect to professionals who understand these issues. I am not a professional like you've just heard for these two previous speakers. I'm going to come to you tonight from a standpoint of I want to touch your heart and get you to think about your life. I'm not going to, the way I do what I do is I just kind of pray a lot and go on a stage, grab a microphone, and just listen and begin to hopefully connect with where you are as individuals. There's no way that I could stand here tonight with the number of people who are here and try to tell you what it's like to live your life. That would be very arrogant of me and wouldn't work. But what I can tell you about for a few minutes is my life story and how that perhaps has some level of relatability to your life and maybe where you're heading in life, especially the teenagers. As I watched the video that you all did, I was very struck by the authenticity of your words, the realness of the words. Yeah, it was shot professionally. You could tell it looked very professionally produced. It had a great music bed underneath it. That always helps, you know. But what grabbed my attention was not just the water that you sat in front of, or the chair, how it was moved from stage A or right to stage left, or how you shot in the earlier part of the day, or how you shot in the evening, because the lighting was totally different. That's all important, but that's not what grabbed me. I noticed that. What grabbed me was and is the very words that you spoke that seemed very unscripted. You spoke from your heart. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I believe causes people to advance in this journey we know as life, is that when you get real with yourself and you begin to understand that your choices do create your circumstances. When I was 15 years old, I had grown up in a Christian home. I was in church every time the doors were open. All of my friends were Christians. I lived a very sheltered life. I went to a Christian school, like I said, and I was living this life. And all of a sudden, at 15 years old, on an afternoon, at 4:27 in the afternoon, 4:27 to 4:30, in that time frame, I was at a friend of mine's home and getting ready to go play either ping pong or shoot some pool. And before I knew it, 60 seconds later, I was being sexually abused. And 60 seconds changed my life forever. And I never told anyone what happened to me. When it was over, I was bewildered beyond measure, and I thought, what just happened to me? And in a split second, in a matter of seconds, my life was forever changed, and I began to go down this path that led me into a place of total isolation, and I did not like me, therefore you could not like me. And so, because I wrongly believed that you didn't like me, I had to create this image that I thought that you would like, so I tried to be something that I was never called to be, and as a result, I tried to live a life that I just simply could not live. And for 22 years, longer than you've been alive, I never told anyone what happened to me. But 22 years later, I was walking into a Home Depot. And at that point in my life, I was on television. We reached 250 million people a night with my testimony. And I walked into the person who 22 years earlier had sexually abused me, and my life unraveled. I could not get off of my own couch. My wife said to me, "You're mean. It doesn't matter if you travel this world or not. It doesn't matter the number of people that you see. It doesn't matter the number of people that you influence or impact. You are a mean individual, and you got to get some help." And I did not know what that even meant, to be honest with you, but I knew this: something was not right on the inside. And I began to learn this very difficult lesson, and it's 4 simple words, and it is simply these: hurting people hurt people. Hurting people hurt people. And so this journey led me into this depth of understanding. What can I do? And then I realized it wasn't what I necessarily could do, but what could God do on my behalf? Suicide is as real as it gets. I know this from very personal experience. I told you I failed PE well, I didn't tell you. I failed PE at 17 years old. How do you fail PE? Don't laugh. It was real serious. Sexually abused at 15, failed PE at 17. And yet at 17 years old, I was teaching tennis. I was playing quarterback. I mean, I was very athletic. It wasn't that I wasn't athletic and couldn't participate in PE. It was I chose not to dress out. There, that word is again, choose. Choices create circumstances. I wasn't going to get dressed in front of anyone because what had happened to me 2 years prior. And I would rather take an F in PE than get undressed and redressed in PE in front of people. And my coach said to me, "Dean, you'll earn the F and I will give it to you." And I said, "Coach, there's no way you'll fail me." Because at 17, I was also the youngest political consultant in Tennessee. I was on television, on the news, in the newspapers. I mean, I was the poster child of arrogance and stupidity. That's dangerous. But I would rather take the F. And he said, "Dean, I want your dad's signature on your report card this time, not your mom's, your dad's. I'll see you tomorrow." I went home that afternoon. "Mom, Dad, here's my report card. I got to go." My dad said, "Dean, you've done really great." I said, "Thank you very much." He said, "Wait a minute." And I knew I was in trouble. He said, "Dean, there's no way to fail PE." I said, "Dad, there's a way to fail PE." "Are you telling me you failed the easiest class you will ever take?" "Yes, sir." "Do you want to talk about it?" "No, sir." "Let's talk about it." "Yes, sir." And I learned 2 very dynamic lessons during that conversation. One, I never again failed PE, but the more important lesson that I have shared from here to South Australia to all over Europe, the Caribbean, across this nation, I don't know how many times now tonight here in the Woodlands, and here it is: if you and I do not pay the price, we will pay a price. There are no free lunches. For every choice you make, there is a corresponding consequence or benefit. What does that have to do with preventing suicide? I'm going to tell you what it has to do with it. It has everything to do with it, because at the end of the day, the choices that you make are either fueled by your hope that life is going to be okay and you're going to get through this thing called life, or you have become so hopelessly defeated that you don't see any way out. I oftentimes have talked with so many, I've talked with, I can't even tell you how many teenagers who've said to me, "I was going to end my life," and they've said, "I was at this point," and they began to talk about this darkness that comes into their life, and they feel this heavy oppressiveness. And ladies and gentlemen, that is real. From where I come from, in my background, spiritually speaking, when I say spiritually, I mean relationally with Jesus, I'm here to say to you that there is a real God, there is a real devil. And if you do not know that, then perhaps we may want to talk about something later on this evening. But John 10:10 in the Bible, the best-selling book of all times, tells us exactly what that is. The devil, the thief, does three things. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus, however, comes to give life and life more abundantly. When I was your age, teenagers, I had heard all of this. I mean, I'd heard all these people say all these things, and it went in this ear and out this ear, and I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it because I thought I had all the answers. I went to a church it was about half this size, but it was a very, very large church. And I was surprised at the number of people who I later would learn were hurting in their lives. And at 21 years old, I had the world by the tail, so to speak. The company I worked for had a couple of airplanes. We had a condo in Florida. I mean, I had stuff. Actually, stuff had me, and I was miserable. And I couldn't figure out why I was so miserable because I dated a great-looking girl. I had some money. I was on a jet every other day. I was going to a condo. I mean, why would that not? I mean, you have everything. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? I mean, for those of you who don't know life beyond this wonderful little thing called the Woodlands, come with me sometime. Come with me into what we call the real world. Just out of curiosity, I've spoken with 2.3 million teenagers, thousands and thousands of events. If I went to your high schools, I'm just wondering if I would be met by armed security as I am in most public high schools. No, the teenagers are going, what are you talking about? The schools you've seen on television have had school shootings. I've spoken at most of them. I've stood where students have been shot and killed. I get this. The other day I was in Florida speaking at a Christian school. That's kind of important to understand here, a Christian school. And when I got there were 4 police cars there walking students out in handcuffs. There was a drug deal going down. So my point is, to whom much is given, much is required. At 21, I didn't have any clue what that sentence even meant. But I did have this moment where and if you believe this, wonderful. I hope you really do. But if you don't, it doesn't really matter. It is the truth. Truth doesn't change. It happened. I said, as I was sitting in my little apartment when I was single, living in this little apartment, eating hot dogs at night, having a pity party, I looked up and I went, hey, God, it's Dean. I don't think you hear me. I don't think you're real. I feel really stupid talking to the wind. But man, if you're real, would you please prove it? I wouldn't advise you having that conversation unless you're ready for an encounter of the real kind. 2 weeks went by. It was a March afternoon. I remember vividly. It was about 1:15 in the afternoon. There's a vocabulary word that I learned at this school called the Macaulay School for Boys, where I went, and it's zephyr. It's a just gentle breeze, and there was just little gentle breeze outside on this March day. 1:15. I walked in. I'd just been to lunch. I spoke to Sharon, our receptionist. Went through her little office area, down the hall, turned right, went into my office, shut my door, and I was dialing a phone. I was calling the shopping center area that we were building a shopping center up in Beckley, West Virginia, and as I was dialing this phone, off behind me to my left, I audibly heard 2 words that would literally alter the entirety of my life. The 2 words that I heard were, call mom. Call mom. I didn't say what if. I just looked to see, okay, who was it? I didn't see anyone, but yet as clearly as you hear me, I heard that. And I dialed 344-7443. The phone rang 6 times, 7 times. On the 8th ring, my mother answered the telephone, and when she said hello, I instantaneously knew there was something terribly wrong, because in that moment in time when God, who is very much real, took a moment out of his day and said to me, call mom, at that precise moment, my mother, hear me, was attempting suicide. She was dying. And I could hear the life leaving her body. And it was not an enjoyable experience at all. And I didn't have time to think because I had not practiced any of this. And for 4 years, I had lived every single day of my life wondering if the next phone call that I was getting on my phone was someone telling me your mom is dead. 4 years I lived that every time the phone rang. Can you imagine? The Bible puts it this way, fear torments. I was that. I didn't think because I had not practiced. I just ran towards my car. I got in my car. I had run past Sharon again. She had no idea. Why is he leaving? I bolted out of there in my car, ran up Interstate 75. And as I drove up Interstate 75 to where my parents lived, I talked to this God I did not know. And I did not talk to him in some language that I did not understand. I just talked to God and I said, hey, God, I can't save my mom, but you can. Would you please help her? And suddenly all these Bible verses that I had been taught as a kid growing up, draw near to me, I'll draw near to you. Knock and the door will be open. Seek, you'll find. Ask, you'll receive. God is love. Love never fails. It's one thing, like was said, it's one thing to have it in your head. That's okay, but it may not stay there. It's when you begin to speak. Because why? When God created his world, he spoke. Genesis 1, read your Bible. Then he said, whatever he said, he then saw. He then created you to be just like him. Genesis 1, 27 and 28. Then he said, let us make man in our own image. Do you understand that you are a creative force? Your words are creating your world every single time you open your mouth. I got to my parents' neighborhood. I looked at their home from the outside in. It was fine. It was a fine home, probably much like the homes here. They lived in this really large home across the street from this beautiful lake. And from the outside in, they appeared to, everything was fine. But from the inside out, my mom was dying. I'm 24 events away from my 3,000th event speaking. And in those 3,000 times of doing what I'm doing tonight, I can tell you from the outside in, you appear to have it all together. I purposely stood in the very back of this room when you were walking in here, and you didn't know me and I didn't know you. I was just watching. I left, what speakers always have green rooms. They're never green, but they're always called green rooms. I was back in the green room and I just kind of excused myself and I walked out here because I wanted to see who was walking in here. You see, from the outside in, you appear to have this thing called life all together, but from the inside out, what's really going on with you? I told you that hurting people hurt people. Guess what? Pain seeks pleasure. Pain seeks pleasure. That day, my mom was barely alive. She came down some stairs. She fell into my arms. I picked her up. I carried her to her car. Again, I didn't know what else to do. I didn't think to call an ambulance. That would make too much sense. I put her in my car to drive her. I'm driving her back down Interstate 75 to this place called Park Ridge Hospital in Chattanooga. And she said to me this one sentence that I will never forget. She says, Dean, I can't be dying. I said, Mom, hang on. You're not going to die, but you're going to have to what? Choose to live. And ladies and gentlemen, life is choosing. If you believe you can, you will. If you believe you cannot, you won't. Why? The Bible says it this way, as a man or woman thinketh in his heart, so is he. I get her to the hospital. I remember I put the car in the emergency parking lot there. Here come the doctors. They come out, they grab her. I remember being thrown against a wall. They rush her back past those doors that shut, and I couldn't see what was on the other side of the doors. My dad was now there. Family and friends have now arrived. And we're just looking at each other. And again, I start talking to God. Isn't it interesting when you're down and out who you talk to? 45 minutes come and go, and then this ER doctor walks over to my dad. He has the most bewildered look on his face. It's perplexion like I had never seen. So I kind of eased on over because what I thought he was going to say is not what I was getting ready to hear. He said, Mr. Sikes, I need to talk to you. He said, what I'm getting ready to tell you has no medical reasoning whatsoever. It is a, quote, miracle of God. When I heard that sentence, I had full attention. He said, your wife is fine. You can go see her. We're releasing her tomorrow morning. And I stood there and I went, you've got to be kidding me. You're real. And in that moment, I was led over to this little corridor of Park Ridge Hospital, and I leaned against this long hallway, and I had an encounter with Jesus. And my life changed. You see, tonight, I'm not here to try to talk you into something because, honestly, somebody a whole lot better than me can talk you out of it. I'm here to get you to think. I'm here to get you to understand that in one instant, life can change. People go, well, people who try to end their lives, they just have such horrible lives. Really? Really? Let me tell you about an 18-year-old I just met a couple days ago in Branson, Missouri, who said to me, as I was speaking at their school, and I always ask the question because, you see, every 40 seconds, somewhere on this planet, someone ends their life, every 40 seconds. That's 1 million people a year ending their life by suicide. In that same 40 seconds, 20 more attempt. That's 20 million people a year attempting. Among teenagers, it's the third leading cause of death today. Experts tell us from the CDC that in 2020, unless something changes, suicide among teenagers will double. So the fact that you are organizing a club, the fact that parents are here and getting yourselves involved, it's way past time to go, well, we don't want to talk about that. You'll talk about it now or you'll talk about it later. This young lady raised her hand when I asked the question, as I always do in every school I go into today. How many of you believe that your life is not worth living and you wrongly believe that your death will be better than your life? And hands went up all over that room, and this one young lady got my attention. And I was getting ready to leave, and I had this prompting in my heart to go down and just sit and talk with her. So I made my way down to the front row, and she was talking to her principal, and they both were crying. And I said, excuse me. I said, I noticed you raised your hand. How are you? And she turned to me, and with tears streaming down her face, she looked at me and she said, do you care? Do you really care how I'm doing? And I must tell you that 7 or 8 years ago, had I been asked that question, I'd have probably had to say, if I was truthful, no, honey, I really don't. I got to get to the next school because I got 3 more schools today and 3 more cities. But on this particular day, because of the last 8 years of our lives, I looked at her with tears in my eyes and I said, yeah, honey, I do care. I really care. She said, well, since you asked, I'll tell you, I'm 18 years old. I've been in 23 foster homes. Why did no one want me? Thank God for foster homes. Thank God people hear the voice of God and they take young, wonderful kiddos into their lives and they become family, and that's wonderful. This young lady, however, was, in her words, why was I rejected 23 times? And honestly, I didn't have an answer for her, and I was kind of introspectively going, God, if you don't give me something to say, you and I both are going to look pretty bad here in a few minutes. Yeah, let me just interject here. God's not mad at you. We do understand that, right? I mean, God's not having a bad day. He loves you. He loves you. Well, why do bad things happen to good people? Because there's a real devil on the loose. He gave me something to say to that young lady. Her tears went away. She began to smile, and we got her some help. And I had to go on, and I was doing a convention that night, and I spoke at the convention. And about halfway through it, I had this prompting to tell the story about the 18-year-old I just met 4 hours earlier, 5 hours earlier. And I did that. And then I got on the airplane the next morning. I flew home, and the next morning I was somewhere in Tennessee speaking at a church, and I began to tell the story about this young lady I'd met 2 days ago in Missouri. I gave an invitation tonight. If you're sitting here, I said, if you feel like your life, you've just been rejected and you're not sure life is worth living anymore, would you just raise your hand? Ladies and gentlemen, the entire half of the church came forward at an invitation. We're not talking about just teenagers, we're talking about half the church. The next morning, I was in a large public high school, over 1,600 students. I happened to be in a gymnasium that day. 870 students on this side, about 900 on that side. 2/3 of the way through, I get that same prompting. Tell the story about the young lady you just met in Missouri. I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Do you know where we are? We're in a public school. Of course I know where you are. I put you there. It's okay to smile. So I did it. Told the story. Then I asked this question. How many of you today would have the guts to tell me if you've been rejected and you feel like life is not worth living? Ready? Teenagers. 1,072 teenagers raised their hand and said, you're talking to me. Can you help me? Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of important to get this point. If you think, because there are a lot of zeros before the decimal point in your bank account, that this cannot happen, please know that that's not correct. The Bible says in James, the devil is he's walking around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's looking for a target. If I say to you, what is potential, what would you say it is? Front row, I know you got potential in sports. What am I saying? What's your name? Santino. What a cool name. No, it's a lot cooler than Dean. If I said you had potential, what am I saying? Stop. Perfect. The ability. Potential. Okay. Santino, since you and I have become best buddies now, all right? Where's the most unused potential anywhere in the world? Where's the most unused potential anywhere in the world? You don't know. Anybody know? Yeah. No, it's always one of my top 5 answers. Yeah. What's your name? Alex. Have you heard me speak before? Alex, I want to meet you. Get down here. Hurry. There's a reason I want to meet you, Alex. I've asked that question to over 1.5 million. Where'd you go? Let's go this way. I'll come this way. Okay, cool. I've asked that question to over 1.5 million teenagers. 87 teenagers have gotten it right. You're number 88 on the planet. For what? Now listen. Oh, Alex, smile. We always do this. Cool. Hey, don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere, man. We're not going to stand right here. Alex, how old are you?
I'm 17.
Okay, let's go for a walk. Come here. We'll just go to the front of the stage together, just you and me.
Okay.
We don't have to go on the stage. And they told me I can't walk on the front part because it was just painted. I'm glad. Okay, so look here. The question was, what is potential? And he said, the ability. I then said, where's the most unused potential anywhere in the world? And you said?
The graveyard.
Tell me why.
Don't
overcomplicate it.
I guess when people take their life, they never understand the ability they had to affect others.
You get it. Here. That's the one I wear. You get it. Thanks. Thanks. The ability that God gave you when he created you is with you for life. I was here I was up near DFW doing a Christian convention. And I'm getting ready to close, so we're getting ready to come in for a landing. At this convention, I've shared some that night, what I've shared with you tonight. We have a table back wherever I am, and I'm always at the table because I love to meet people. And I'm getting better at meeting people. My wife tells me that I blow out too fast, so I'm working on staying and getting to meet people. On this particular day, I noticed that there was no one at the table except this one little girl. And man, the look she had on her face, she didn't just want to talk, she needed to be heard. There's a big difference. So I waited for her and I saw her, she kind of walked over towards me. I said, hey. She said, hi. So what's your name? Megan. I said, Megan, my wife and I have 3 children, and one of our children's name is Megan, and we call her Meggie. She smiled. She says, Megan's fine for me. I said, okay, I shall call you Megan. I said, what's up? She says, can we talk? Sure, let's talk. She began to tell me some of her stories, and here come the tears. And I'm just watching this. I said, Megan, how old are you? She said, I'm 14. I said, Megan, what would bring you to this point in your life? She says, can I show you something? I said, yeah. And I remember it was cold outside. I had a sweater on and I was still kind of cold from even just having spoken. But she had this jacket on, and she took her jacket off and pulled her arm sleeve back, and she showed me her arm where she had been cutting herself. We're at a Christian convention, okay? Just kind of important. I said, Megan, why? We talked some more. And then she did something very interesting, and the entire conversation pivots right here, and she said, hey, Mr. Dean. I always love when teenagers say Mr. Dean. I know they're being respectful, but it's just funny. She said, Mr. Dean, can I give you something? And so now listen, we go from, hi, I'm Megan. Can we talk? Can I tell you my story? Can I show you my arm? Now she's saying, can I give you something? And I said, yes. And when I said yes, she reached into her bag, and I had no idea what was getting ready to happen. But with tears now just flooding down her face, remember she's 14, and her arm is shaking, she pulls this out of her bag, hands it to me, and this is the very one, I keep it with me wherever I go. She handed me this blood-stained razor blade and said, I don't want to hurt myself anymore. Will you take it? And now every single day that I am on the road in high schools across this wonderful nation of ours, I do what I'm doing right here, and I see the looks that I'm seeing right here. I see those who are very uncomfortable on the inside. I see some who have this pounding in the center of your chest, and you want me just to be quiet and get off the stage. I get that, but I'm telling you, this is as real as it gets. And now every day on my airplane, we have a bag full of these things. The other day in Nashville, Tennessee, a guy handed me a pencil sharpener and said, will you take this? I've been hurting myself. Remember what I said 30 minutes ago, hurting people hurt people. So what do you do with all this? You've been given a ton of information tonight. You've been shown an app. You've been shown ways to communicate. You've been shown ways to not only know what you're seeing, but know what you're saying. You've been talked about find that safe person in your life. These are all incredibly important things. But I want to talk to you about one more. Choice. This takes guts. It takes courage. I'll be real honest with you. We moved 3 dates when I talked to Kim Hess and I found out what was going on tonight. She said, I have no idea who's going to show up, how many. We're doing everything we can. But in my heart, I knew, and we literally canceled one date and moved 2 dates to clear the calendar so I could get here to be with you for 35 minutes. For this reason. And don't forget that. I don't tell you that for any reason other than to tell you there's a reason. And now I'm going to take you into that place of reason. This is as serious as it gets. I'm not talking to you about religion. I've read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. I don't find religion in there. I find relationship in there. People tell me all the time, well, Dean, I go to church. That's wonderful. My car goes to church. It's going to neither heaven or hell. It's just time to get real. I ministered last night up near Fort Worth, and when I got through, right as I was leaving, some guy stood up and went, that guy's just real. Yeah. Just when you tried everything else, real kind of works. I'm going to ask you some questions tonight. Respond if you want to, don't respond. But I refuse to cancel 2 dates and move a third, fly all the way out here, spend what we spent on our airplane to get to you, and not ask these questions. Well, I'm going to be real uncomfortable. Good. Mission accomplished. Well, I'll just be private. Doesn't work that way with me, sorry. I've been doing this way too long because I'll tell you why. The minute you hit that outside door, the law of diminishing returns happens. Well, that was just an emotional decision you made. No, we're not talking about emotions, decisions. We're talking about truth. It's 8:30. I said I'd be through speaking by 8:30, so we're pretty close to time on this. I want everybody in this building, I don't care if you're the youngest or the oldest, to close your eyes, and I'm going to ask you with as much confidence as I have that nobody looks around. This is a moment between you and God. Well, I'm not here for that reason. Well, you are now. Too late. So here, I'm going to ask you 3 or 4 questions. When I say close your eyes, that would be nice now. Okay, everybody? Yeah, thank you. First question I'm going to ask you is this. Because you see, you really can't understand your value until you understand how you became valuable. When God created you, he did not go, oops, Jesus, get over here. You won't believe what I just did. He created you and went, wow, look at what I have just done. If today, God forbid, was the last day of your life. See, the Bible says it this way. We do not know what the future holds, but we do know who holds the future. I recently got a phone call from the principal of a school in southern Alabama. They said the captain of our cheerleading squad drove off of the school parking lot yesterday. She was tragically hit and killed. Our school is falling apart. Would you come speak? Give us hope. When they called me from Kentucky, where a young man walked into a school, he had 1,200 bullets in a bag and five guns, and he shot and killed 3 teenage girls and shot 5 others. They said, come say whatever you want to say. And I said, if I say whatever, you and I both are going to be run out of Kentucky. They said, no, we just buried kids. You can say whatever you want to say. They're not going to say anything to us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you some questions again, whether you're the youngest or the oldest. If today was the last day of your life, some of you already have a beating in the pounding in the center of your chest. That is not me. That's the God that I talked to you about 25, 30 minutes ago who showed up in my office that day. If you don't know that you would go to heaven if today was your last day and you want to make what I call the choice of a lifetime, again, I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to point you out. I'm going to ask you 3 total questions, and here's the first one. If you would say, Dean, I'm not saved, I'm not a Christian, but I want to make that decision tonight in an environment like this, I'm going to count to 3. If that's you, I want you to shoot your hand straight up. I already know you're here. How do you know that? Because the pounding you have in the center of your chest, I have in the center of my chest. I've been doing this a long time. This is how I always know we're on to something. 1, don't let pride stop you. I'm not saved. I want to become a Christian. 2, here's your moment. Ready? On the count of 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, hands up. Go. Good Lord in heaven. Get them up high. Get them up high. Get them up high. Don't be embarrassed. My Lord. Okay, put them down. Second question I'm going to ask you. Keep your eyes shut, please. If tonight you're sitting in this auditorium and you just feel hopeless, maybe you're not on the verge of ending your life, but you feel like, you know what, my life I don't know what I have no idea what my life even matters, why it even matters. I know I want to live and I want to keep moving forward, but I just have this sense of hopelessness on my life, and I just need real, genuine hope. If I'm talking to you on 3, hands up. 1, 2, 3, please go. I love the honesty of this crowd. Thank you. Put your hands down. This is the hardest question I will ask you tonight. It takes more courage than any question I ever ask. But if you'll be honest with yourself, what I have learned from dealing with so many students is this. Suicide is built in threes typically. Not always, but typically. First, a person will think about it. Secondly, they'll talk about it. And if they're not stopped, third, they will attempt it. Not always the case, but more times than not, that's been the scenario that has been played out when students have come and talked to me. Not long ago in Charleston, South Carolina, a young man said to me, Dean, I was home. I had just written my goodbye note to my parents. The shotgun barrel was in my mouth. I was pulling the trigger, and something I now believe to be God stopped me and told me to come hear you speak tonight. I was in Dallas the other day speaking at a school. We'll just leave it at that. You would know the name if I said it. A young lady walked up to me after. She says, Dean, right before this assembly started, I called my mom and asked her to bring me my medicine. I left them at home this morning. She said, I knew she could bring all my pills, not just one or two. She said, my plan was after this assembly was over, I was going to the girls' bathroom where I was going to take all the pills. I was going to be dead in 60 minutes, but I heard you say that my life matters. I'm going to give God a chance. If tonight suicide is a real option, you're thinking about it, you're talking about it to somebody, or maybe you've even got it planned, this takes more courage than I can even begin to express to you, but this is why I came to wherever I am in Texas. When I get to 3, get your hand up. Ready? 1, 2. Hands are already going up. 1, 2, 3. Now, up. Good golly, Moses. Look at those hands. Leave them up. Leave them up. Put them down. Everyone look right up here right now. I just saw 27 hands in this room right here, right now. Why? Ask the question. It's what these two ladies just said. I just did it Dean's way, the way I've been instructed to do it. When I asked if you want to get saved, there were well over 40 hands that went up. When I asked how many of you were just hopeless, there were over 70 hands that went up. When I asked if you think your death is better than your life, suicide, 27, what did I say, 27, Keith? 27. So what are we going to do about it? I'm going to tell you what we're going to do about it. This is going to get real uncomfortable. But that's just part of life. When I get to 3, and this always takes one person who has the courage, and I'm talking about, I'm looking for the one who has the courage. When I get to 3, I'm going to invite you, if you raise your hand, or you know you should have raised your hand, I'm going to ask you to come down to this altar right here. Why do I got to do that? I don't know. When you get to heaven, ask God. Don't ask Dean. It takes one who does it, and then masses follow. Why do I have to do that? I know one part of the answer to that is simply this. It puts action to the raising of a hand. Nobody in this auditorium, I don't even know why you are coming, because I don't know who you are. I don't know why you raised your hand, but I'm going to do it this way, and then I'm going to leave. I'll go to the table. I'm not going to leave. Stop saying that. When I get to 3, if you raised your hand, I'm going to ask you to move forward. We're not going to waste time. We're almost through. I'll be through in 6 minutes. 1, 2, 3, come. Move. Move. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it takes a lot. Golly, I'm coming down there with you all. Ladies and gentlemen, there were over 80 people that raised their hands in this auditorium. I know this is tough. I know this is not easy. Keep coming. Keep coming. This is what we're here for tonight. It's okay. Keep coming. This is it. This is okay. This is all part of it. It's all part of it. This is where the healing begins. I'm going to give you one more opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Why are you pushing so hard? This is not pushing. You are in a tug of war right now. This is as serious as you will be. I'm going to ask everyone in the room to close your eyes one more time, then I'm going to turn it over to Kim, and I'll be through. Every eye closed. If you raised your hand right now and you've got the guts to say to me, Dean, I want to come down there, I'm just scared. Yes, I raised my hand. I already know you raised your hand. I saw all the hands go up. I'm just scared on 3. 1, 2, 3. I know. See, look at all the hands. I get it. Put them down. Now then, look at me. You just raised your hand. Look at me, all of you. Get out of your seat. Come on. This is the safest thing you're ever going to do. Take one step. This is it. There's a reason I'm doing this. If you'll just trust me. This is what we do every single day in schools across this country. And this is always what happens. You got 10 seconds to move. And that pounding, it's only going to get more intense. Hey, Kim, come here. Come here, Kim. Keep coming. There you go. Just takes one, and then they all come. That's what I wanted you to see happen. Watch out. Let me get beside you here. Here's how we do this. Can I get right beside you, please? When a person makes the choice, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. They're still coming. Just take your time. When a person makes the choice to become a Christian, it's a very simple process. And while this is happening at the front, I'm going to finish up like I told him I would. And by the way, this was all part of tonight. When they called me, I said, this is what I do. And they said, if you're led to give an invitation, please do so. And if students respond, that's great. They're coming. Just take your time. It's real. Parents, what I hope you get out of tonight here is these are real kids. They're not even kids. These are young adults. And these are the ones who, and listen, it's tough to get out of a chair without any music playing and just boldly walk up. Though that takes so much courage. And for the half that didn't, that's okay. Don't sweat that. It's not a big deal. This is the beginning. This is why your club exists. What did you say your mission was? To stop teenage suicide? Well, look here. We're on our way. I'm going to ask everyone in this room, if you would please, to pray this prayer out loud with me. Though this is for those who wanted to become a Christian, all those hands that went up. It's real simple. Father, your word says that if I believe in my heart and confess with my mouth that you raised Jesus from the dead, then I would be saved. So right here, right now, I believe that Jesus died for me, that you raised him from the dead, and today he's seated at your right hand, talking to you about me. Jesus, come live in my heart. I'm yours, you're mine. Let's do life together. In Jesus' name. Okay, look right here now. I've written 19 books for teenagers. This book is called Choose Life. Where there is life, there is hope. I'm going to give every student here a copy of this book until they run out. How many do we have? 200. Okay, so if you'll go to my table, say, I want the Choose Life book. I'm going to give it to you, okay? But you only take it if you're going to read it. My books are very short by design. This one's less than 40 pages long. You can read it in 20 minutes. 25 if you're a slow reader. The most important book I've ever written is this book right here. It's Hope 365. It's a daily devotional for teenagers. I've been amazed at how God uses this across the nation. They're back there if you want them. We can talk. I don't even know what they cost, but they cost something, but I don't know what. But I don't get involved in that side of it. They're back there. The Choose Life book costs you nothing. We have a pledge card that I'm asking 2 million students across the country to sign. The students that are down here right now, I really would prefer that you don't leave. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes afterwards if you don't mind. If your parents are here, maybe they'll wait a few minutes. Here's what I want you to understand. I'm so thankful there's some counselors here that can really connect to you immediately. If you'll pass these pledge cards out, those of you who have them, I ask you to sign this pledge. It says, I choose to live and not end my life for 3 reasons. God created me as an original for purpose and for relationship. I ask you to sign the bottom portion. I do not need your email address. Tear off the bottom portion like so. Give me the bottom. You keep the top. On the top are ways to further connect with our ministry. There's an 800 number. I'm quite confident it's the same number that we saw on the previous presentation, where 24/7 someone is on ready to answer your phone call if you're in need of help. Kim, thank you for having the courage, you and your husband, to take a stand. Nobody would wish to be in your shoes at all. But you're doing something positive out of a horrific situation. Young people, I'll leave you with this. No matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, no matter where you're going, God's never made a mistake. Job 33:4 says it this way: the Spirit of God made you, and the breath of the Almighty gave you life. That's where you came from. If you would please sign those I'm talking about everybody in the room. You would be astonished at how many adults sign our pledge card. Why do you sign your name to something? You take ownership of it. After you've signed it, if you'll tear it off, they'll pick them back up. If you want one of the books, the Choose Life books, please come back and get one. Thank you for letting us come. God bless you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you so much for signing the pledge card. If you don't mind to go ahead and sign that, and if you will, go on and tear off the white part on the bottom of it when you get through signing. You don't have to put your email address on there. You can if you want to. If you guys want to go on back to your seat and grab a pen or something and sign that, that'll be great as well. Or if you want to hang out here and talk to folks, that'll be fine as well. But if you don't mind to sign that pledge card and pass it down to the end of your seat before you go, if you will. If you're already out, if you'll drop it off at our table in the back. Go on and sign that pledge card, tear it off, keep the black part. There's some information on there for you. I want to tell you about a couple of things that Dean has back there at the table. If you'll come by and see us, we've got these You Matter t-shirts. If you want to help spread the word that people matter, we have these t-shirts that just simply say You Matter back there. They're great tools. These are $10. They're available at the pledge table. We have them in gray. We also have them in green. Also, we have several books that Dean has written back there. Please stop by the table and see those. Let me tell you about one more thing that we have. We have an app that's got a lot of free information on there that will help you, and you can pass that along. We want to help you. If you'll help us by uploading your app, we want to give you something free today. The blue bracelets that I'm wearing, if you'll load our app up on your iPhone or your Google phone, if you'll do that tonight and come back and show us that you've uploaded it on your phone, we will give you one of these free bracelets. The app name is You Matter Space Dean. You Matter Space Dean. If you want to upload that app, come back, show us your app. We'd be glad to give you one of these bracelets. It's got some information on it as well. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much for coming, bringing your students. If some of you want to come in and mingle with the students here that have come up, you're free to do that. Come on and do that. If some of you need to talk to Dean, he wants to talk to you. He'll be back at the table, which is just to the right side of the foyer as you go out the door. Thank you so much. I'll turn it back over to Kim.
I thought I was going to get back up there and I want to talk about some more stuff tonight, but after this, this is why we're here tonight. This is why we have a club. God has big plans for all of you. Remember that. You matter, okay? You matter. You have so many people here that care for you. Reach out to them when you need help. I love you all. And thank you for coming tonight.